The genocides perpetrated by powerful authoritarian regimes and governments has long been spoken about and understood by the Western populace. The first one that comes to mind for many is the great tragedy of the Holocaust. Adolf Hitler's final solution to the long-debated Jewish question, which resulted in the deaths of 6 million minorities, mostly of Jewish backgrounds, and others who simply weren't what was considered to be German at the time. There is little debate about the factuality of this genocide, and where there is to be found debate, it is simply among radical fringe right-wingers who identify themselves with the Nazis. And while this video is about authorities' graveyard, I would like to shift the Overton window over to somewhere a little more to the left. Communism. Debate is rampant at the moment between right-wingers and left-wingers as to the true nature of the genocides committed by communist nations, namely the Soviet Union. I'd like to start by addressing them. First, you need to know who my source is. Adam Jones is a political scientist, writer, and photojournalist based at the University of British Columbia, Okanagan in Kelowna, BC, Canada. He's the author of Genocide, a comprehensive introduction and other books in genocide studies. He is executive director of Gendercide Watch. He was chosen as one of 50 key thinkers on the Holocaust and genocide for the book of that name, which was published in 2010. He is also a published photographer, both in print and online under Creative Commons license. He is author of a textbook in the field Genocide, a comprehensive introduction, and author or editor of other works on genocide and crimes against humanity, including The Scourge of Genocide, Essays and Reflections. He was senior book reviewer and editor of the Journal of Genocide Research from 2004 to 2013, and currently edits the Studies in Genocide and Crimes Against Humanity book series for Routledge Publishers. Now let's dive into his claim. Adam Jones claims that there is very little in the record of human experience to match the violence unleashed between 1917, when the Bolsheviks took power, and 1953, when Joseph Stalin died and the Soviet Union moved to adopt a more restrained and largely non-murderous domestic policy. He notes the exception being the Khmer Rouge in relative terms, and Mao's rule in China in absolute terms. Stephen G. Wheatcroft asserts that prior to the opening of the Soviet archives for historical research, our understanding of the scale and the nature of Soviet repression has been extremely poor, and that some scholars who wish to maintain pre-1991 high estimates are finding it difficult to adapt to the new circumstances when the archives are open and when there are plenty of irrefutable data, and instead hang on to their old Sovietological methods with roundabout calculations based on odd statements from images and other informants who are supposed to have superior knowledge. Although, he acknowledged that even figures estimated from the additional documents are not final or definitive. In the 2007 revision of the book, The Great Terror, Robert Conquest estimates that the exact numbers will never be certain. The communist leaders of the Soviet Union were responsible for no fewer than 15 million deaths. Some historians attempt to make separate estimates for different periods of Soviet history, with casualty estimates varying widely from 6 million for the Stalinist period to 8.1 million for a period ending in 1937 to 20 million to 61 million for the period of 1917 to 1987. Numbers for the genocides perpetrated by the Soviet Union vary on source, but the mere existence of these genocides should be enough for any reasonable person to be disgusted with the Soviet Union and the policies that enabled such atrocities to be committed. That policy being authority. The very thing that ties the genocides in history together is a large oppressive force, exerting its will and power onto a people that don't have the means to defend themselves from it. The Christchurch shooter enacted a genocide on a church of Muslims. The Soviet Union enacted multiple genocides on the rich, its own people, dissenters, the Ukrainians, and etc. The People's Republic of China also enacted genocides on the rich, landowners / barons / landlords, dissenters, and its own people. And of course the Nazis enacted a genocide on the minorities of their nation. 3 of the examples have one thing in common. They all had authoritarian governments at the head of the mass killings of the people. The people were oppressed, having their rights stricken. They had their speech taken, their press taken, in some instances their lives, their property, their guns taken, and their fair trial was taken as well. Without these rights and privileges, the people were left powerless to defend from what was to come. The takeaway from all of this is clear. We must prevent the relegation of power in the hand of government entities. We can achieve this through multiple lanes. Inspiring the people to be steadfast in their defense of their rights, create a government whose only purpose is to protect rights, and form a government that prevents a majority from exerting an unjust will upon a minority. This is most easily achieved through a republican style of government. The likes of the modern United Kingdom, the United States of America, Norway, Switzerland, Canada, and even ancient Roman Greece. These democratic republican institutions have been the best for furthering the freedom and prosperity of man in the history of the world. Even when they have failed, they have still came out on top eventually. I am aware of the past atrocities and growing lack of freedom in the current nations of these examples. This is why I have made this video. I am attempting to inform you that it is necessary to maintain your freedom in the face of these governments. They seek authority. The slow relegation of power from the people and into the central parts of these governments has been happening in modern years, and the people have not been steadfast in their defense of their freedoms, and their governments are abandoning the responsibility of protecting the rights of their citizens at an alarming rate. If we are not careful, if we do not read the warning signs ahead, I fear what our kids may be dealing with, and at any rate, what we may be dealing with. I so deeply hope that we may fight back against this growing threat and restore our liberty for our safety. The best ways to do that is to vote. We are all still living in republics. We can still turn it around. Look for candidates who do not subvert, who do not vote, write, or sign laws that do not help you. Both of the leading political parties in your country may be guilty, and that makes it even more important that you vote for candidates that will make your voice heard. We can change the countries we live in. We can secure our freedom. We can keep atrocities from happening. We simply must have the will to do it. So get out there, make some noise, and have a good day.